Feel like you're being pulled in 1,000 directions? Let's fix that. Download your free rebalancing toolkit and learn how to design an optimized week that lets you feel like you have it all. Get the goods at brilliantbalance.net/have-it-all.
I'm Cherylanne Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for working women who are ready to shine. Each week, I bring you ideas, inspiration, and insight on balance, business, and getting it all done gracefully. You ready? Let's be brilliant. Hello and welcome. This is episode 45 of the Brilliant Balance podcast. So happy September to you. Here we are post Labor Day and rolling into September. And I think summer is officially over, or I should say unofficially over now for all of us, with virtually everyone being back in school and in the swing of things heading into fall. And I don't know if you're like me, but I am already nostalgic about summer. My mom did such a sweet thing. She put together a photo album for our kids of all the fun things that the kids have done this summer. And it was really a poignant moment just to look back on how many things we packed in. We only took one big trip. We had a few smaller trips to visit family, and then one, week-long vacation. But even the things that they did in and around town that she managed to capture a lot of with a camera, she actually took the time to have those printed and put into an album. And the kids were so excited to open that and look back on all the memories, that they'd made during the summer. And I was reflecting on my own memories, and one of the things that really stood out to me this summer was something we did on our vacation. We were on a lake in Michigan. I had mentioned to my husband earlier this year that one of the things I had never done, and I was always sort of curious about, was to go jet skiing. You see those people out there zipping around on those jet skis, and they look so fun and they make it look so easy. And I thought that's something that I'd thought about doing a lot of times, and it just never really come together. So when we were on vacation, one day he said, hey, I think today we should all rent jet skis. And then it was in the moment where I had to actually, confront, am I really ready to do this? Is this going to scare me, or am I going to be excited about it? And we did it. And I have to say, it was a little scarier than I thought. I am not exactly a daredevil. In fact, probably quite the opposite. And I had the two girls with me. So I have 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. And I had both daughters with me when I was on this jet ski. So that, I think, was exacerbating my adrenaline level. I was a little anxious about if I tipped this thing over and had both kids on it, how would that go exactly? But we did it. And my youngest daughter is still mercilessly teasing me that I didn't get it to go fast enough. So she went out with her dad after that, and he managed to go much faster than I did on that particular trip. But I think what was the most special to me about that memory is that, my husband had been paying attention when I had mentioned, really not more than in passing, that renting a jet ski was something that I had thought would be fun. It was on some level like a dream, right? It was a little dream. It wasn't something I had pined over for years and years, but I had thought about it on multiple occasions, from probably the first time I'd ever seen one, back like maybe in junior high until this year. And he made that dream come true. And that might sound like a small thing, but I think it's really indicative of who he is. I'm really blessed to be married to someone who pays attention to those things, who notices what are the experiences that I'm drawn to, what are the things that are exciting to me, what lights me up. And whenever he has the opportunity to, he makes those happen. And this was just one, recent and poignant example of that. And I think because of the work that I do, I cross paths with a lot of women, many of whom don't feel like they have their spouse's support, even for what might be a very significant dream, something that is deeply important to them, that they're deeply passionate about. And so that's really what I want to talk about today is, what is it like when you don't feel like you have your spouse or your partner's support for a dream that you're holding? And, if you don't have it, what happens, right? And then how can you go about getting it? Because I think, especially when we're married, but certainly when we're in any kind of a committed relationship, sometimes not having that person's support for an idea that we want to pursue or a dream, not having that support creates enough resistance to really keep us from pursuing it. And I've seen women abandon, really simple dreams, things like, I don't know, maybe jet skiing, right? Or remodeling, a closet, putting in a closet organizer, or even abandoning a plan to do something like keep the kitchen and dining room clutter-free, right? They'll walk away from that plan if they don't think their spouse will buy into it. And more significantly, I see women who stay in jobs that they really hate or abandon, an entrepreneurial dream, never really get it off the ground, or give up on the idea of staying home with the children for an extended period of time if they don't think they'll have their spouse's support. It's more prevalent than I would have thought before I got into this work and crossed paths with so many women who, often when I interact with them, it's about their desire to pursue a dream. And so any resistance to that, any obstacles that they are encountering come up, early in the discussion. And it's no longer surprising, but it was at first how often their spouse's buy-in was the biggest obstacle, the biggest form of resistance. And, it shows up in big and small ways. Maybe they're not living in the home that they want, or, driving a car that they really like, or even spending their leisure time in ways that they enjoy if they feel like their spouse is judging those choices or not on the same page of those choices. So what's a woman to do? Right? What do you do when you have a dream, a small one, something you want to pursue, or a big one that you actually feel like is connected to your purpose or your calling? How do you get your spouse's buy-in to greenlight that, to pursue that dream, to know that you have their support? And so I've spent some time thinking about this because without this knowledge, without a capability of gaining your spouse's buy-in, I think that a lot of women will step back from the starting line. That dream will remain off in the distance instead of becoming their reality unless they can cross over this particular barrier, this particular brand of resistance. So what I want to do today is share a few things that can be sequenced in as you seek your spouse or partner's support for a dream that you're holding. And following these steps really greatly increases the likelihood that you will get that buy-in, that you'll get that support, that you'll get that encouragement so that you can pursue that dream without the feeling of resistance or the feeling of judgment or the feeling of dread that might otherwise be associated with it. So let's take each one in turn. The first thing that I see really be a success driver when you're looking to get this buy-in is to first get crystal clear about what it is that you want. Now, that may sound obvious, but a lot of these discussions, when they begin, can sound really wishy-washy. They can sound like you aren't sure what you want. And I will tell you, clarity sells. If you are trying to get someone else to buy into an idea, a dream, if you're trying to get someone to follow you, right, and you cannot articulate clearly and with some level of passion what it is that you desire, it's really hard to get their buy-in. So think about how different it sounds if I'm like, I don't know. I'm sure this is a dumb idea. I don't even know if it matters. It's probably stupid. But I was thinking that maybe, I don't know. Maybe one day it doesn't even matter what I say after that. Anything I say after that is so far diminished already that you don't even care what I'm about to say. Right? And that's how these conversations too often start out. We diminish and we cloud and we muck up the idea that we're even trying to present, right? Contrast that with opening the conversation by saying, I have reached a decision about something that I really want, and I'd like your support. Wow. Right? Night and day. I've reached a decision. This is something I really want. I have clarity. I'm about to tell you what it is. Now we're telegraphing confidence and clarity, and that there's been forethought to this conversation, right? So having that clarity about exactly what it is that you want, and knowing that you've done your homework and you already know that this is something that if you weren't married, you would be doing, right? But because you have respect and you want buy-in and you want support, you're going to share this conversation. That clarity is the first step, right? And it's not just knowing it, it's being able to articulate it with extreme clarity. So that's step one. You have to be clear in your own mind about what it is that you want, okay? The second piece is you have to be clear about what's in it for him. So it is so much easier to get someone to buy in to an idea, a dream, whatever it is you're trying to get them, in the boat about, if you see it through their eyes. All right. And the reason this is so important is because the resistance that you are going to get is often going to be rooted in the other person's unspoken fears. So it's very, very rare that your spouse is just going to be a jerk on purpose, right? It's very rare that they're going to say, I don't want you to do it because I want to make you miserable, right? When they're saying, I don't think we should do that, or I don't think you should do that, there are often, a fear that's underneath it. It could be that there's fear about the impact that this decision will have on you. It could be fear about the impact that it will have on him. It could be fear about the impact that it will have on your family's time or on your household finances, right? So there's usually a story that's associated with the dream. So let's say it's something like, I currently work in this job and I'd like to leave that job and start a business. And that's the dream that you have. And you're clear about what it is and you know what business it is you want to start and you've done your homework and you're in that conversation. The story that your spouse is telling himself about what is likely to happen if you pursue that dream is going to be the source of the resistance. So you have to sit in the seat of, okay, I've already thought through the implications on everyone, on you as my spouse, on our children, on our finances, on my own confidence and happiness. And you have to be able to speak from those multiple points of view, right? Because when you're trying to get buy-in, you need to be able to get the buy-in from him, from his vantage point. So you do that by being very clear about what is in it for him. Thinking that through in advance and being prepared to have that discussion and not being resentful about it, knowing that that is natural, that there will be questions that will come up as you are presenting this idea and looking for support.
Feel like you're being pulled in 1,000 directions? Let's fix that. Download your free rebalancing toolkit and learn how to design an optimized week that lets you feel like you have it all. Get the goods at brilliantbalance.net/have-it-all.
So first is clarity about what it is you want so that you can articulate it very clearly. Second is clarity about what's in it for him. Being able to see through the potential resistance to what is the benefit of this decision to your spouse. Okay. And often there will be. Often your own happiness, your own fulfillment, which may sound like it's all about you, certainly has a spillover effect to the way you show up inside your family. And so that alone could be the benefit to him. All right, the third piece of this is that you want to go into the conversation asking for support, not for permission. Okay, so let's think about this. If you go into a conversation where you're setting up the frame as though you're asking for permission, is it okay with you if I do this? Would you be okay if I XYZ, fill in the blank? Am I allowed to, blah, blah, blah? Any of those kind of sentences essentially put you in a parent-child dynamic in the discussion where you are the child asking for permission. And they set up the other person to be in a yes-no answer frame, right? So when you come in asking for permission, they believe instinctively that their job is to either say, yes, I'm granting you permission, or no, I am not, okay? And the implication is that if that person says no, that you will not do it because you've given them the decision authority. So that can box you into a corner because what do? Do you give up on the dream or the desire every time he doesn't agree with it? Maybe that's the pattern that you're in, but is that really practical as an adult, right? The question is, could you proceed without permission? What would it feel like to sit with the discomfort of, this is the decision I'm making, and it's different than the one you would make, but you'll support my decision? What does that feel like? Is that a level of discomfort that you can withstand, or are you only able to proceed if you have the unequivocal, essentially permission from your spouse to do whatever it is that you want to do? Because sometimes when the dreams carry risk, or when actually they are going to cause some discomfort for your spouse, or they're, let's take an example where maybe you've been staying at home and you'd like to go back to work. Well, there's upside in that financially for your family, but there's also some change where you may not be around as much. You may not be able to do as many things at home if you're going to be at work. So as your spouse or your partner is weighing all of those pros and cons, if the cons win out and they're like, no, I think you should stay at home, and you really want to go back to work, it could be game over if you've set this up as, I need your permission to do this thing. So you want to be careful that you're going into the conversation in a frame where you're asking for support, not permission, right? In other words, the decision to do this in your mind is very clear. And now you'd like to enroll them in the decision and ask for their support as you pursue this decision you've already made. That's different than, I think I might want to do this. I'll only do it if you say it's okay. Do I have your permission? Right? They're very different conversations, and you will come into it from a very different frame if you're coming in asking for support than you will if you're coming in asking for permission. Okay, so my vote is ask for support, but at a minimum, you've got to be aware of which are you doing, because you will set up the other person to be in a very different frame of mind, depending on which one of those two you choose. Okay? And then the last piece is really something that comes after the fact. So when you get that buy-in, when they say, yes, you have my full support, go for it, but absolutely do it. Whatever you think is best, I'm with you. That's the answer that's like amazing when you get it. So when you get that answer, if you ever want to get it again, you have to be a person of your word. Do what you say you will do. Live up to the promise that you're making. So whatever it is, let's say that you've decided to take a class and you're enrolling in his support. Show up for the class, right? Be the star student in that experience. Be committed. Be all in. And stay very positive about the decision that you've made. I've been told many, many stories by deeply saddened women who know deep down that they've broken their spouse's trust enough times that it's going to take a lot to rebuild it. They're back in a permission cycle because they had support and they didn't live up to the commitment they made, and it broke the trust. So this might be, they've signed up for something that they never completed, right? Or they spent money on something that ended up being wasted, right? Sometimes the setbacks are hard to avoid, right? Businesses don't always succeed, or they take longer to do so than you might think, right? Crises come up in your life that pull you away from something you thought was a good idea at first. But sometimes that's on us. So if it has been your pattern in the past to not live up to your word, then own that, right? And commit to what you will do this time and do it. Because I will tell you this, in my experience, a lot of the resistance that we think we'll get from our spouse is really in our heads. I've just had so many conversations with women who say, I don't know what my husband was going to say about this. And sometimes that fear is so great that they don't even want to have the conversation. So they're so sure they're going to be judged or so sure that they're going to be turned down that they just don't even want to start the conversation. And when we can get them to, I'll use the term suspend their disbelief, when we can get them to put that on a shelf and say, but what if he says, yes, by all means do it? And they go in and have the conversation. More often than not, their spouse pleasantly surprises them by saying, I support you. If you think you need to do this, or this is something you want to do, you sound like you've done your homework. You sound confident. You sound like this is exactly what you need. You have my support. And that has happened so many times where they just did not believe they were going to get it, and they did, right? And had they not had the conversation, they never would have known. So, many is the time that, we're right at that 1 yard line on a big decision, and then we get scared of what is our spouse going to say. He's never going to agree to this. He is never going to buy into this. And so we don't even start the conversation. And that's my whole mission for today, is to help you recognize that pattern in your own life. Where are you not going for the thing you really want? Where are you not even engaging in the conversation out of fear that it might not end well? And can you summon the courage to go into the conversation with confidence using this framework? That you have clarity about what it is you want and why you want it, that not only what's in it for you, but what's in it for him, and maybe what's in it for the rest of the family or other people who are involved, and that you go in asking for support, not permission, right? I'm asking you to support this decision. It's your decision, but because you respect the relationship, you're looking for buy-in, right? You're looking for support. And when you get it, hold it as a sacred trust. When you get that support, if you ever want to get it again, be a person of your word. And these principles, these practices fundamentally will change the game around how you get support to go after your dreams. I'm going to tell you, if you've never done this before in this way, it's going to feel unusual to your spouse. They're going to be like, what happened? Right? When you come in sounding different, when you don't sound wishy-washy, when you're not confused, when you're not, preambling your request with a lot of disclaimers about how it's a dumb idea, right? When you drop all those habits and you just confidently articulate what it is that you need or you want and why, and what the benefits are going to be, it is a lot easier to get the support and the buy-in that you need. And you deserve that. You deserve that. You deserve to go after those dreams that you really want in your life, okay? So use them well, use them to pursue the biggest and boldest things that you see in your future. And shoot me a note and let me know how it went when you had the opportunity to try. The best place to do that is inside the Brilliant Balance Facebook group. So if you haven't joined us there yet, we are growing by leaps and bounds in that place. It is becoming a lot of fun to be in that community. We're trying all kinds of new things. So you just go to Facebook and search for the words Brilliant Balance in groups. That's the whole name of the group. You'll find us there. Just request to join and we will welcome you in. That is it for today, my friends. Until next time, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.